The Sicilian, or Love Makes the Painter, by Moliere, translated by Henri Laun. Dramatis Personae.
Don Pedro, a Sicilian gentleman, read by Thomas Peter.
Adraste, a French gentleman in love with Isidore, read by Adrian Stephens.
Isidore, a Greek girl, Don Pedro's slave, read by Sonia.
A senator, read by Todd.
Hali, a Turk, Adraste's slave, read by Alan Mapstone.
Zaide, a young slave girl, read by Jenn Broda.
First musician, Philene, read by Availle.
Second musician, Tircis, read by Todd.
Third musician, Sheppard, read by Jim Locke.
A slave, singing, read by Kay Taylor.
Stage directions read by Rob Marland. The Sicilian, or Love Makes the Painter. Scene 1. Hali, musicians. Hali, to the musicians.
Hush! Do not come any farther, and stay where you are until I call you.
Scene 2. Hali, alone.
It is as dark as pitch. The sky is dressed like a scaramouche this evening, and I do not see a star that shows the tip of its nose. What a droll condition is that of a slave! Never to live for oneself, and always to be entirely engrossed by the passions of one's master, to be controlled by nothing but his whims, and to see oneself reduced to make all his cares one's own concern. Mine makes me here share his anxieties, and because he is in love, I am forced to lose my rest both day and night. But here come some torch-bearers. It is he, no doubt.
Scene 3. Adraste, 2 servants, each carrying a torch. Harley.
Is it you, Hali?
And who should it be but me? At this hour of the night, except you and me, sir, I do not think that anyone takes it into his head to roam the streets now.
Nor do I think that anyone can be met who feels in his heart the grief that I do, for, after all, it is nothing to have overcome the indifference of the harsh treatment of the fair one whom one loves. One has always at least the pleasure of complaining and the liberty of sighing for her, but not to be able to find any opportunity of speaking to her whom one adores, not to be able to learn from the fair one whether the passion which her eyes have kindled pleases or displeases her. That is, in my opinion, the most annoying of all anxieties, and that is to what I am reduced by that tiresome, jealous fellow who watches with such care over my charming Greek, and who does not stir a step without dragging her at his side.
But in love there are various ways of speaking to each other, and it seems to me that your eyes and hers have told many things during nearly 2 months.
It is true that she and I have frequently spoken to each other through our eyes, but how to find out if we have correctly interpreted this language on either side? And how do I know, after all, whether she quite understands everything that my glances tell her, and whether hers tell me that which I sometimes fancy they do?
We must find some other mode of speaking with her.
Have you your musicians here?
Yes.
Tell them to come near.
Alone.
I will make them sing until daybreak, and see whether their music will not oblige the fair one to come out to one of the windows.
Scene 4. Adraste, Harley, musicians.
Here they are. What shall they sing?
What they think best.
They must sing the trio that they sung to me the other day.
No, that is not what I want.
Ah, sir, but it is in that beautiful natural.
What the deuce do you mean by that beautiful natural?
Sir, I am fond of the natural. You know that I am a judge. I love the natural. Without the natural there is no salvation in harmony. Just listen for a little to this trio.
No, I wish something tender and impassioned, something that will lull me as in a sweet dream.
I see that you prefer the flat, but there is a way of satisfying us both. They shall sing a certain scene of a little comedy that I have heard them attempt. Two shepherds in love, quite full of languor, separately come into a grove to make their complaints in the flat. They confide to each other the cruelty of their mistresses. Then comes a jovial shepherd with an admirable natural who laughs at their weaknesses.
Very well, let us hear what it is.
Here is just the very spot to serve as a stage. And here are 2 torches to throw a light upon the play.
Place yourself against this house, so that the slightest noise outside we may extinguish the lights.
Fragment of a comedy, sung and accompanied by the musicians whom Hali has brought. Scene 1. Philene, Tircis. First musician, who represents Philene.
If with the sorrowful tale of my grief I disturb the quiet of your solitude, do not be angry, O rocks. Rocks, tough you are, you will be touched when you know the excess of my hidden anguish.
Second musician, who represents Tircis.
The gladsome birds, when day begins to break, renew their song in these vast forests, and I renew my languishing sighs and my sad regrets. Ah, dear Philene!
Ah, dear Tircis!
What grief I feel!
What cares I have!
Ever deaf to my sighs is the ungrateful Clymene.
Chloris has no sweet looks for me.
Oh,
too inhuman law! If you cannot compel them to love, O Cupid, why do you leave them the power of charming?
Scene 2. Philene, Tircis, a shepherd. Third musician, who represents a shepherd.
Poor lovers, what a mistake to adore merciless creatures. Sensible minds ought never to bear with harsh treatment, and favours are the chains which ought to bind our hearts. Here are 100 fair ones, to whom I hasten to offer my tender cares. It is my greatest delight, but when they act like tigresses, upon my word, I become a tiger too.
Happy, alas, are they who can love thus.
Sir, I just heard some noise inside.
Be off quickly and extinguish the torches.
Scene 5. Don Pedro, Adraste, Hali. Don Pedro, in a nightcap and a dressing gown, with a sword under his arm, coming out of his house.
I have noticed this singing going on for some time at my door, and no doubt this is not done for nothing. I must try to discover in the dark who these people can be.
Ali,
What is it?
Do you no longer hear anything?
No.
Don Pedro is behind them, listening.
What? Are all our efforts to speak for one moment with this pretty Greek in vain? And shall this cursed jealous fellow, this wretched Sicilian, forever bar all access to her?
I wish with all my heart that the devil had taken him for the trouble he gives us, the tiresome fellow, the hangdog that he is. Ah, if we only had him here, how delighted should I be to avenge upon his back all the fruitless steps which his jealousy causes us.
We must, for all that, find some means, some trick, some stratagem to catch our brute. I am too far advanced to be baffled now, and although I should have to use...
I do not know what this means, but the door is open, sir, and if you like, I will go in softly and find out what the cause of this is.
Don Pedro goes back to his door.
Yes, do so, but do not make a noise. I shall not be far away. Would to heaven it were the charming Isidore.
Don Pedro giving Harley a slap in the face.
Who goes there?
Harley doing the same to Don Pedro.
A friend?
Hello, Francisque, Dominique, Simon, Martin, Pierre, Thomas, George, Charles, Barthélemy. Come, look sharp, my sword, my buckler, my halberd, my pistols, my blunderbusses, my guns. Quick, make haste. Here, kill and slay, give no quarter.
Scene 6. Adraste, Hali.
I hear not a soul stir. Ali? Ali?
Hali hid in a corner.
Sir?
Where are you hiding yourself?
Have these people come out?
No, no one is stirring.
Hali coming out of his corner.
If they do come, they shall have a drubbing.
What? Shall all our trouble be for nothing? Shall this tiresome, jealous fellow always laugh at our attempts?
No, I get angry, and my honour is at stake. It shall not be said that anyone has outwitted me. My reputation as a rogue disdains all these obstacles, and I am determined to show the talents that heaven has given me.
I only wish her, by some means, by some note, by some voice, to be informed of my feelings towards her, and in return to know hers upon the subject. After that, we can easily find some means.
Only let me manage it. I shall try so many sorts of things that something or other, in short, may succeed. Come, day breaks. I shall go and fetch my men, and wait here until our jealous fellow goes out.
Scene 7. Don Pedro, Isadore.
I do not know what pleasure you can have in waking me so early. It agrees badly, I think, with your intention of having my portrait painted today. You can hardly expect me to have a fresh complexion and sparkling eyes by making me get up at break of day.
Some business compels me to go out at this hour.
But this business can be very well transacted, I believe, without my presence, and you might, without incommoding yourself, have allowed me to taste the sweets of the morning slumber.
Yes, but I am very glad of having you always with me. It is as well to be on one's guard a little against those vigilant swains, and not later than last night people came and sang at our windows.
That is true. The music was charming.
It was intended for you.
I must believe so, since you say so.
Do you know who gave the serenade?
I do not, but whoever it was, I am obliged to him.
Obliged?
Undoubtedly. since he seeks to amuse me?
You think it right, then, that people love you?
Decidedly. There is never anything offensive in that.
And you wish well to all who take that trouble?
Certainly.
You say pretty plainly what you think.
What is the good of dissimulating? Whatever we may pretend, we are always well pleased to be loved. This homage to our charms is never disagreeable to us. Whatever we may say, believe me, the great ambition of women is to inspire love. All the cares they bestow upon themselves are for that only, and the proudest inwardly applauds herself for the conquests which her eyes make.
But if you take so much pleasure in being beloved, do you know that I, who love you, do not take any in it?
I do not know why this should be, and if I loved anyone, I should have no greater pleasure than seeing her beloved by everyone. Is there anything which marks more plainly the beauty of one's choice? And ought we not to congratulate ourselves in thinking that what we love is found very lovable?
Each one loves in his own peculiar fashion, and this is not my way. I should be very delighted if people did not think you so beautiful, and you will oblige me by not trying to appear so in other people's eyes.
What? Are you jealous of these things?
Yes, jealous of these things, but as jealous as a tiger, or if you like it better, as a devil. My love claims you all for itself. Its delicacy is offended at a smile, at a glance which may be drawn from you, and all the precautions which I take are only to bar every access to these admirers, and to assure myself of the possession of a heart, the slightest part of which I cannot bear to be robbed of.
In good truth, shall I tell you, you enter upon a wrong path, and the possession of a heart is but badly secured if it is to be retained by force. As for me, I admit candidly that were I the admirer of a woman who was in someone's power, I would study everything to make that other person jealous and to compel him to watch night and day over her whom I should like to win. It is an admirable way to forward our wishes, and people are never very long in profiting by the spite and anger which restraint and servitude awake in the breast of a woman.
At this rate, if anyone made love to you, he would find you disposed to receive his addresses.
I will say nothing about that, but in short, women do not like to be restrained, and it is running a great risk to show them your suspicions, and to keep them imprisoned.
You but little acknowledge what you owe me, and it seems to me that a slave to whom I have given her freedom, and whom I wish to make my wife.
Where is the obligation if you but change one slavery into another more severe still, and if you do not allow me to enjoy the least freedom, and tire me, as you do, with continual watching?
But all this proceeds but from an excess of love.
If that is your way of loving, I beseech you to hate me.
You are in a pettish humour today, and I forgive you your words on account of the annoyance which you may feel at having risen so early.
Scene 8. Don Pedro, Isidore, Hali, dressed as a Turk, bowing repeatedly to Don Pedro.
A truce to these ceremonies. What do you want?
Hali, placing himself between Don Pedro and Isidore. At each word which he speaks to Don Pedro, he turns to Isidore and makes signs to her to let her understand the designs of his master.
Signor, with the signora's leave, I will tell you, with the signora's leave, that I have come to see you, with the signora's leave, to ask you, with the signora's leave, to have the kindness, with the signora's leave.
With the signora's leave, come a little on this side.
Don Pedro places himself between Isidore and Hali.
I am a virtuoso, signor.
I have nothing to give away.
I am not asking for anything. But as I meddle a little with music and dancing, I have taught some slaves, who would be glad to find a master who takes a delight in these things. And knowing that you are a gentleman of some importance, I have come to ask you to look at them and to listen to them and to buy them if they please you, or to recommend them to one of your friends who might be willing to engage them.
We might see their performance. It will amuse us. Fetch them hither.
Chalabala! That is a new song, the latest out. Listen well. Chalabala!
Scene 9. Don Pedro, Isidore, Harley, Turkish slaves. A slave, singing to Isidore.
A lover with an impassioned heart follows his beloved object everywhere, but the eternal watchfulness of an odious jealousy prevents him from speaking to her except by his eyes. Can there be aught more painful to a heart in love?
To Don Pedro.
Chirabira da Uchala Star Bon Turka Non Avadanara Ti Vula Compara Mi Severe a ti Si Paga per mi Far Bona Cucina Mi Lavar Mattina Fabola Caldara Palara Ti voler comparara.
First entry of the ballet. Dance of the Slaves. A slave, singing to Isidore.
It is a complete torture under which this lover expires. But if the fair one will only look upon his martyrdom with a gentle eye, and consent that he may sigh for her charms in the eyes of the whole world, then he may soon laugh at all the precautions of jealousy.
To Don Pedro.
Chiribirida Ochala, Star Bon Turca, Non aver denara, Ti volor compara, Mi servir a ti, Si pagar per mi, Far bona cucina, Mi levar mattina, Far bola caldara, Palara, Ti volar compara.
Second entry of the ballet. The slaves recommence dancing. Don Pedro sings.
Do you know, you scamps, that this song smells of stick for your backs? Kiribirita ucara miti non comparara, ma ti bostonare, siti non andara, andara o ti bastonara. Oh, what merry sparks!
To Isidore.
Come, let us go in again. I have changed my mind, and moreover, the weather looks rather threatening.
To Harley, who comes back.
Ah, you rogue, let me catch you at it again.
Well, yes, my master adores her. He has no greater desire than to show her his love, and if she consents to it, to take her as his wife.
Yes, I will keep her for him.
We shall get her in spite of you.
What do you mean, you scoundrel?
We shall get her, I tell you, in spite of your teeth.
If I take...
You may watch as much as you like. She shall be ours. I have sworn it.
Leave me alone. I shall catch you without fatiguing myself.
It is we who will catch you. She shall be our wife. Our mind is made up.
Alone.
I must accomplish it, or perish in the attempt.
Scene 10. Adraste, Harley, 2 servants.
Well, Ali, are our affairs improving?
I have already made some little attempts, sir, but I...
Do not trouble yourself about it. I have found by accident all that I wish, and I shall enjoy the happiness of seeing this fair one in her own house. I happened to be at Deimos, the artist who told me that he had to go today to paint the portrait of this charming creature, and as we are intimate friends of long standing, he wishes to serve my flame and sends me in his place with a few words of introduction. You know that I was always fond of painting, and that I sometimes handle the brush myself, much against the French custom, which forbids a nobleman to know how to do anything. So shall I have the liberty of seeing this fair one at my ease. But I do not doubt that my jealous boar will always be there, and prevent any conversation between us, and, to tell you the truth, I have, by the aid of a young slave girl, prepared a stratagem to get this fair Greek out of the hands of her tormentor, if I can prevail with her to consent to it.
Leave it to me. I will put you in the way to converse with her.
Whispers to Adraste.
It shall not be said that I count for nothing in this affair. When are you going there?
This very minute. I have already prepared everything.
And I am going, on my part, to prepare myself.
I will lose no time. Although I will not delay the pleasure of seeing her.
Scene 11. Don Pedro, Adraste, 2 servants.
For whom are you looking in this house, sir?
I am looking for Don Pedro.
He stands before you.
He will take the trouble to read this letter, if it please him.
I send you, instead of myself, for the portrait in question, this French gentleman who, anxious to oblige, has been good enough to undertake this task at my wish. He is unquestionably the first man in the world for this sort of work, and I thought that I could do you no more agreeable service than to send him to you, since you intend to have a finished portrait of the person whom you love. But above all, take care not to speak to him about any remuneration, for he would be offended at it, and does these things only for the sake of fame and reputation. Sir Frenchman, you intend doing me a great favour, and I am very much obliged to you.
All my ambition is to oblige people of standing and merit.
I will call the person in question.
Scene 12. Isidore, Don Pedro, Adraste, 2 servants. Don Pedro to Isidore.
This is a gentleman whom Damon sends us, and who will be kind enough to undertake your portrait.
To Adraste, who, in saluting Isidore, embraces her.
Hallo, Sir Frenchman, this way of saluting is not the fashion in this country.
It is the fashion of France.
The fashion of France may suit your ladies, but for ours it is somewhat too familiar.
I accept this honour with much pleasure. The adventure surprises me immensely, and to tell the truth, I did not expect to have such an illustrious painter.
There is no one, doubtless, who would not think it an honour to engage in such a work. I have no great talent, but in this case the subject provides more than enough in itself, and we can do something beautiful with such an original to work from.
The original is but little to speak of. but the skill of the painter will be able to hide its defects.
The painter cannot perceive any, and all that he wishes is to be able to represent its charms to the world's eyes in the same perfection as he sees them.
If your brush flatter as much as your tongue, you will paint a portrait which will not be at all like me.
Everyone who made the original has prevented us from making a portrait of it that could be flattering.
Whatever you may say, heaven has not—
Let us finish this prey. Let us leave compliments and think about the portrait.
Adraste to the servants.
Come, bring my things.
They bring the necessary painting implements. Isidore to Adraste.
Where shall I sit?
Here, this is the right spot, and catches best the precise light we want.
Isidore, after sitting down.
Am I right thus?
Yes, hold yourself up a little more that way. Your body turns thus, your head raised a little to show the beauty of the throat. This is a little more open.
He uncovers her neck a little more.
That is it. There, a little more. Just another shade.
Don Pedro to Isadore.
What a fuss to put you right. Cannot you sit properly?
These things are altogether new to me, and it is for this gentleman to place me as he likes.
Adraste seated.
There, it could not be better, and you sit admirably.
Turning her a little towards him.
Like this, if you please. The whole depends upon the attitude which we give to the people we paint.
Very good.
A little more this way. Your eyes turned towards me, I pray, your looks fixed on mine.
I am not like those ladies who, having their portraits painted, wish them to be unlike themselves, and are not satisfied with the painter unless he makes them more lovely than the day. To content them, one ought to make but one picture for them all, for they all ask for the same thing: a complexion entirely of lilies and roses, a well-shaped nose, a small mouth, and large sparkling eyes, and above all, the face no larger than a hand, even if they have one a foot wide. As for me, I ask you for a portrait that is like me, and which shall not compel people to ask whose it is.
It would be difficult to have it asked of yours, and your features are very unlike those of others. How sweet and charming they are, and how much risk there is in painting them.
The nose seems to me a little too large.
I have read, I know not where, that Availle of old painted a mistress of Alexander so marvellously beautiful that, while painting, he became so hopelessly enamoured of her that it nearly cost him his life. Had not Alexander, out of generosity, ceded to him the object of his love?
To Don Pedro.
I might do the same here as Apelles did of old, but you would not do the same perhaps as Alexander.
Don Pedro makes a grimace. Isidore to Don Pedro.
This is like all those of his nationality. These French gentlemen have always such a stock of gallantry that they scatter it everywhere.
One is seldom mistaken in this sort of thing, and you have too much good sense not to see whence comes the words which one says to you. Yes, were Alexander present and your lover, I could not help telling you that I have never beheld aught so beautiful as what I see now, and that—
Sir Frenchman, I think you ought not to talk so much. It takes your attention from your work.
Ah, not at all. I am in the habit of talking when I paint, and a little conversation is necessary in those cases to wake up the mind and to keep the faces of those we paint in the requisite gay mood.
Scene 13. Harley disguised as a Spanish gentleman. Don Pedro, Adraste, Isadore.
What does this man want? And who lets people walk up without announcing them?
Harley to Don Pedro.
I have entered boldly, but between gentlemen such freedom is allowed. Sir, am I known to you?
No, sir.
I am Don Gile d'Abalos, and the history of Spain must have made you acquainted with my merit.
Do you wish anything from me?
Yes, advice upon an affair of honour. I know that it would be difficult to find a gentleman more perfect in these matters than you, but I must beg you as a favour to draw a little aside.
This will be fair enough.
Adraste to Don Pedro, who catches him whispering to Isidore.
She has blue eyes.
Harley, drawing Don Pedro away from Adraste and Isidore.
Sir, I have received a slap in the face. You know what a slap is, when it is given with an open hand in the very middle of the cheek. I take this slap much to heart, and I am uncertain whether to avenge the insult I ought to fight my man, or rather to have him assassinated.
Assassinated? That is the surest and quickest way. Who is your enemy?
Let us speak low, if you please.
Harley holds Don Pedro, while speaking to him in such a manner that he cannot see Adraste. Adraste at Isidore's knees, while Harley and Don Pedro whisper together.
Yes, charming Isidore. My looks have told you as much for the last 2 months, and you have understood them. I love you more than aught else, and I have no other thought, no other aim, no other passion than to be yours all my life.
I do not know whether you speak the truth, but you make me believe you.
But do I make you believe me sufficiently to inspire you with ever so little kindness towards myself?
I only fear I have too much.
Have you enough, fair Isidore, to consent to the plan of which I have told you?
I cannot tell you yet.
What are you waiting for?
To make up my mind.
Ah, when people love with all their hearts, they make up their minds quickly.
Very well, then. Yes, I consent to it.
But do you consent? Tell me that it be this very moment.
Very well, then. Yes, I consent to it.
But do you consent? Tell me that it be this very moment.
When once our mind is made up about a thing, do we consider the time?
Don Pedro to Harley.
This is my opinion, and I kiss your hands.
Sir, if you ever receive a slap in the face, I am also a man of counsel, and I may be able to return the service.
You will pardon me for not seeing you to the door, but between gentlemen such freedom is allowed.
Adraste to Isidore.
There is nothing that could efface from my heart the tender proofs.
To Don Pedro, who perceives him speaking very closely to Isidore.
I was looking at this little dimple which she has got at the side of her chin, and I thought at first that it was a mole, but we have done enough for today. We will finish at another time.
To Don Pedro, who wishes to see the portrait.
No, do not look at anything yet. Have it carefully put aside, I pray.
To Isidore.
And you, I beseech you not to give way, and to keep your spirits up in order, that I may finish my work.
I shall reserve all the gaiety I can for this.
Scene 14. Don Pedro, Isidore.
What say you? This gentleman seems to me the most polite in the world, and one must admit that the French have in them something so polished, so gallant, which other nations have not.
Yes, but they have that against them that they are somewhat too free, and that madcap-like they are too fond of whispering sweet nothings to every woman whom they meet.
It is because they know that those things please the ladies.
True. But if they please the ladies, they very much displease the gentlemen, and one is not very glad to see one's wife or mistress openly courted to one's very face.
They do so only in sport.
Scene 15. Zaide, Don Pedro, Isidore.
Ah, sir, save me, I beseech you, from the hands of an enraged husband who is close upon my heels. His jealousy is incredible, and surpasses in its violence everything imaginable. He carries it so far as to wish me to be always veiled, and for having found me with my face a little uncovered, he has drawn his sword, and he has compelled me to throw myself upon you, and to ask for your protection against his injustice. But I see him coming. For heaven's sake, honored sir, save me from his fury.
Don Pedro to Zaide, pointing to Isidore.
Go in there with her, and fear nothing.
Scene 16. Adraste, Don Pedro.
What, sir, is it you? So much jealousy in a Frenchman. I fancied that only we were capable of such a thing.
The French always excel in everything they do, and when we take it into our heads to be jealous, we are 20 times more so than a Sicilian. This infamous girl thinks to have found a safe refuge with you, but you are too sensible to blame my resentment. Allow me, I pray you, to treat her as she deserves.
Ah, for pity's sake, stop. The offence is too trifling for so much anger.
The extent of the offence lies not in the importance of the deed. It is in the transgression of the given orders, and in such matters that which is only a trifle becomes very criminal when it is forbidden.
To judge by what she has said, all that she has done was unintentional, and I pray you to be reconciled.
What? You take her part? You who are so particular in matters of that kind?
Yes, I take her part, and if you would oblige me, you will forget your anger and be reconciled to each other. It is a favour which I ask of you, and I shall look upon it as an earnest of the friendship which I should like to subsist between us.
Under these conditions I can refuse you nothing. I will do as you wish.
Scene 17. Zaide, Don Pedro, Adraste hidden in a corner of the stage. Don Pedro to Zaide.
Come along, I say. Only follow me. I have made your peace. You could not have fallen into better hands.
I am much more obliged to you than you think, but I shall take my veil. I shall take care not to appear before him without it.
Scene 18. Don Pedro, Adraste.
She will be here directly, and I assure you that she seemed very glad when I told her that I had made it all right.
Scene 19. Isidore with Zaide's veil, Adraste, Don Pedro.
Since you have consented to forgo your resentment, allow me to make you shake hands together here, and to beg of you to live henceforth for my sake in a perfect understanding.
Yes, I promise you, for your sake, I shall live on the best possible terms with her.
You oblige me greatly, and I shall bear it in mind.
I give you my word, Don Pedro, that out of consideration for you, I shall treat her with the utmost possible kindness.
You are really too kind.
Alone.
It does one good to make matters pleasant and peaceful. Hello, Isidore, come.
Scene 20. Zaide, Don Pedro.
What is this? What means this?
Zaide without her veil.
What means this? That a jealous man is a monster hated by all the world, and that everyone delights to annoy him for annoyance' sake. That all the locks and bolts cannot keep people, and that the heart must be won by gentleness and kindness. That Isidore is in the hands of a gentleman whom she loves, and that you have been duped.
And shall Don Pedro suffer this mortal insult? No, I have too much courage, and I shall go and demand the assistance of the authorities to punish this perfidy to the utmost. Here lives the senator. Hello!
Scene 21. A senator, Don Pedro.
Your servant, Don Pedro. How opportunely you come.
I come to complain to you of an insult which I have suffered.
I have just arranged the most beautiful masquerade in the world.
A treacherous Frenchman has played me a trick.
You have never in all your life seen anything so beautiful.
He has abducted a girl to whom I had given her freedom.
They are people dressed like Moors, who dance admirably.
You may judge whether this is an insult which I ought to bear.
Most marvelous dresses, made expressly.
I demand the assistance of the authorities in this matter.
I wish you to see this. They are going to rehearse it to amuse the people.
What are you talking about?
I am speaking about my masquerade.
I am speaking of my affair.
I will not occupy myself about any matter except pleasure today. Come, gentlemen, come. Let us see whether it will go all right.
Plague take the fool with his masquerade.
The deuce take the boor with his affair.
Scene 22. A senator, troupe of dancers. Entry of the ballet. Several dancers, dressed as Moros, dance before the senator and finish the comedy. End of the Sicilian, or Love Makes the Painter, by Moliere, translated by Henri van Laun.